I think that in the last 5 years procurement has changed. It's certainly become involved in a lot more buying decisions. It's no longer sufficient for many organisations just to talk to their friends inside the business, the sponsors if you like, or the users of the product or service. At some point procurement is clearly going to get involved and start asking questions and start wanting to try and reduce the cost of the organisation, which is your profit. But I think they do that in a variety of ways, and some organisations have a greater degree of maturity than others. So some are there really simply to attack you, to be the Rottweiler dog, try and get the costs down, try and commoditise what it is you offer, really give you no opportunity to build value. But there is a growing sense of maturity now, and I think a lot of organisations are both seeking to segment their suppliers, to focus on a number of preferred suppliers, those who they feel can build value for their organisation, and because they as procurement departments are now seen as part of the operation of the organisation, where they have a role in building value and returning value to the shareholders. And where that's the case, they're very likely to be involved and involve you in a much more business focused, creative, cooperative sort of relationship. One of the things that makes that difficult in some organisations is that procurement is still viewed internally by their colleagues as a bit of a backwater, a bit of a unimportant part of the organisation. And so while they may want to get more involved in the procurement process or the buying process, the decision-making process, if their colleagues simply view them as an administrative function, only there to put a rubber stamp on the deal or to try and get a discount on the deal rather than being consultative, then I think you as a seller have a difficult job to do. On the one hand, you have to sell to your traditional client. On the other hand, you have to bring procurement into the process by helping them to build value and to be seen as a valuable part of the organisation by doing things for them that no other competitor might be doing for them. So bringing them right in to see your product or service in action and see what value that brings to the organisation. Showing them, for example, how you can not just help them make a top-line cost on saving on this year's price, but through the life of the product or service that you're trying to supply, you can help to save the company money, you can help them to gain competitive advantage. You can work together in a cooperative team, maybe to do something like as HP and maybe work together in a cooperative team as, for example, HP and Canon did, where they formed a procurement supply team to try and even out the effects of currency fluctuations over a period of years in their relationship. So it's about being creative. It's about seeing procurement as something other than just a department that is there to attack you or to give you a green light, but a department that's there that in many organisations, and I would argue an increasing number of those organisations, is becoming an important part of the overall decision-making process. One of the ways you can find out if that's happening is by looking at the way procurement people are bonused, looking at the way they're rewarded, looking at how senior the chief procurement person is within the organisation, for example, whether they sit on the board, looking at the internal relationships they have and how much valued they seem to be by their colleagues and how early their colleagues bring them in to a buying decision. And if they're being brought in early, if the chief procurement officer is a board member, and if those people that you're dealing with in procurement are rewarded and bonused on a 3 or a 5 year cost saving scheme rather than a 1 year low price scheme, then the chances are that you can have a proper, mature, adult, highly developed consultative conversation, and you should therefore treat people in procurement as much as a customer as all the other people you go and talk to in the organisation when you're trying to make your sale. While it's important that we use personal skill, consultative skill, to help to build the value and the reputation of the procurement people that we deal with inside their own organisation, I think we also need to be aware that there are things that procurement organisations will try and do to us that might make it more difficult to sell. And I think the most obvious and the chief of these is to try and to get between you as a seller and the actual buyer or user of the product or service by imposing certain rules on you when you're in a bid. The most obvious of these, I suppose, is when an RFP, a request for proposal, is issued, or a tender document is issued, and one of the things they do is they say you simply can't have any contact with anyone inside the organisation. You can only deal through procurement. And one of the things that research that we've done has shown is that that isn't necessarily true. It might be true in certain public sector bids, and it might equally be true that there is only a small window of time when you can speak to the sponsors within the business. But you should, if that opportunity isn't there, isn't made for you, you should try and make it for yourself by tactfully and respectfully asking, and by making the point that you can't help to build value for the business if the business won't let you build that value. And procurement is unlikely to be the only place you can make that case. So you want to make that case to the people who are actually going to use your products or services, and you need to find out what's bothering them and what value you're going to bring. And procurement really needs to let you do that. It may be that as a result of your asking that question, they let all your competitors have that conversation too. But that's not a problem, because you should be better at asking the questions and being able to build your value. And in any case, if they've imposed that rule, it's a fairly good bet that there is an incumbent supplier there already who has already influenced the request for proposal or the tender document, and all you're doing is catching up. And frankly, if an incumbent is already there and they have influenced the request for proposal, you simply have to take some action and persuade the client to let you talk to them. Otherwise, you're very unlikely to win a piece of business. Among the other things people then do is impose terms and conditions upon you right at the beginning as an entry condition. And again, the research shows that there's no requirement for you to accept those. You can still bid, even if they say that acceptance of those terms is a condition of entering the bid. You can say, no, we want to enter this bid, but we don't accept your terms. Those will be subject to negotiation. And the legal advice we have is that that's perfectly acceptable, and the evidence that we have from our research is that it doesn't harm your opportunity to win the bid. It doesn't mean you'll necessarily win it, but we've seen very few cases where going outside the rules, if you like, of the competition in that way, or by asking for executive level access, has ever disqualified somebody in a private sector bid. It is different in the public sector, in government contracts, where different rules sometimes apply, and you have to stick much more rigidly to them. I remember a case not that many years ago when I was involved in a bid, and we went to the actual inside sponsor, the user of our services, and asked them some questions. And they said afterwards, it's very interesting, you're the only one of the competitors, the only one of the bidders who's actually come to us and asked us any questions at all about our problems and our situations and how we might benefit from your services. And we said, well, there's a reason for that, which is that your procurement department told us we couldn't. Said it was absolutely against the rules. And they were shocked and horrified. And they said, why has our procurement department done that? How can we possibly expect to get full value from any cooperation we may have with a supplier if the procurement department won't even let that supplier talk to us? But what we had done is we'd gone to procurement and said, we can't win this bid, we can't give your organisation the right value unless you let us speak to the real customer for our services. And the real customer for our services was delighted that we made that step. Very cross that procurement had acted in the way that they had. And I suspect that that is more common in many organisations than we may think it is. So be bold, be tactful, be respectful, but always be prepared to find out what's bothering the organisation from the people who know best.